Welcome to Bedtime Stories. The Wise Princess. Once upon a time a king had one beautiful daughter. He wished her to be the wisest woman in the world, and so he sent far and wide for the finest scholars. Teachers came from everywhere. Daily they taught the princess all they knew. The princess loved learning, and most of all, she loved many languages of the world. She learned Greek, English, Spanish, French and Japanese. She also learned Portuguese, Latin, German and Chinese. Before long, she knew more than all her teachers. She could speak to every visitor to the palace in their own language. The king soon understood that his daughter must find a husband who was as wise as she. He sent out a proclamation. "My princess will marry the man who can speak a language which she does not know. Beware, suitors. Anyone who dares to seek the hand of the princess but cannot speak a new language will be thrown into the wintry sea." Princes and dukes, knights and lords heard the proclamation and sighed. They shook their heads and grumbled among themselves. "No one knows as many languages as the princess," they all agreed. And so no one came to seek the princess' hand in marriage. The princess grew lonely and sad. "Father, will no one marry me?" she asked. Her father took his daughter's hands and said sadly, "I fear that may be true, my child. There seems to be no man wise enough for you." Meanwhile, outside the palace, a young shepherd carrying a leather satchel on his back appeared at the gates. The man announced to the king's guards, "I have come to seek the hand of the wise princess." The king's guards laughed. One of them said, "Run to your flocks, boy. You are a simple shepherd." But the young man smiled. "Open the gates," he said. "I can speak many languages the princess has never heard before." The guards shook their heads. "Give up, boy, and go away," another said. "I will not," he answered proudly. And so at last the guards led him to the king's throne room. There the lovely princess sat beside her father. When she saw the man, she smiled, for she liked the gleam in his eye. "Your Majesty," the guards announced, "this young man has come to marry your daughter." The princess was delighted by the handsome man, but she was also afraid for him. "Father," she whispered, "please don't harm him. He seems to be kind, and so very brave." The king looked at him and frowned. "If you dare fail to speak an unknown language, son, do you know what will happen to you?" The young man smiled. "I do," he said. "And I am not afraid of the sea. Besides, I believe you will find that your daughter does not know all there out in the world." The king shrugged. "Speak your language, then," he said. He quickly walked to the princess's side. "Beautiful princess," he said, "listen closely." He reached into his satchel and pulled out a tiny sparrow. "Suu, suu, suu," the sparrow chirped. He turned to the princess. "Do you understand what this sparrow said?" he asked. The princess shook her head. "But princess," he said calmly, "you claim to understand all languages. The sparrow asks if he can alight upon your shoulder." He let go of the sparrow and whispered, "See, Tsii," and the sparrow flew at once to the princess and alighted upon her shoulder. Princess clapped her hands. "How wonderful," she cried. "Wait," he said, raising his hand. He again reached into his satchel and pulled out a shiny black crow. "Quack, quack," the crow cried. He patted the bird's head. "So sorry," he said, and he gently placed the crow upon the floor. "You understood right. What does the crow wants?" he asked the princess. She shook her head once again. "No," she said softly. "The crow wants his freedom," he said, and he walked to the door and opened it. "Squeak, quack," he cried. When the crow heard these words, he flew out the door for his freedom. The princess stared. "How do you know what they say?" she asked. He smiled. I have spent my days, weeks and months in the forest, listening to them carefully. I can speak the language of the beasts and birds. If you marry me, I will teach you, for there are many languages even the greatest scholars do not know." The king was furious. He turned to his daughter. "I thought you were the most learned person in the world," he cried. "How can you let a lowly shepherd make a fool of you?" The young man once again stepped forward. "Sire, your daughter is wise beyond words," he said, "for only the wise can admit that they do not know everything." The princess was so pleased with the young man's understanding, that she begged her father to allow her to marry him. The king, seeing the joy on his daughter's face, knew he was wrong to have judged the young man so harshly. "You have won my daughter," he said, "and I wish you both a happy and joyful married life." The young man and the princess got married and lived happily ever after, always surrounded by the birds and beasts, always seeking wisdom, and always wise enough to learn more. If you like the story, please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you for listening. Good night.